There's a hit last year. Redmi G 2021 with the price of $1,000. It supports 130W 3060 in MUX, which is exactly a bargain. But this year, Redmi is a little low-key. Redmi G 2022 was silently launched lately, but it only supports up to 3050 Ti, of course not successor to the last gen. Few days ago, I got this Redmi G Pro Ryzen 2022. I realized their strategy. For this Redmi G Pro. What is the Pro for? Is it still a bargain? After the price had gone up, you will find the answer after this video. First, the specs. CPU is our 7680OH GPU up to 130W RTX 3060, but no 140W, it's a pity. We'll compare the difference between 130 and 140 watts, 18GB RAM and 512GB storage, a 16-inch 2560-1600 IPS screen with 240Hz refresh rate. The 2.5 and 240Hz is really impressive. The reference price is $1,099. Sounds like an ordinary update, but considering the update in specs and designate competitors from first-tier brands are above $1,199 this year, it still has a few advantages. Now, the appearance. It has changed a lot indeed. The plastic case of the last gen was too cheap. The lid is replaced with a metal one. Also, the logo becomes a hexagon icon. For the rest of lid, no extra decoration, which looks clean and tidy, and the base panel and bottom case are still plastic, but do have better texture. Feel like more delicate than the last gen. The screen aspect ratio is 16:10, maximum 130 degrees opening. Larger screen to body ratio, which looks pretty good. Love it. I can't find parameters on the website. Maybe it was customized. Color volume, 97.7% RGB. Color gamut, 97.3% RGB.AS for color accuracy. It offers two options, True Color and RGB. Average delta E less than 1 in both modes and maximum is around 2. In sRGB mode, color temperature is slightly higher, but tiny difference. It supports DC dimming, peak brightness, 530 nits. Response time, black white 8.8 ms, gray to gray 12.5 ms. T the top level. Among its rivals, 5K, 500 nits and high color gamut are the common allocation. But 240Hz refresh rate is a bold try. Competitors in the same price range are basically at 165Hz. It can make game graphics more smooth, especially for the professional gamers. For CS, Go, LoL, and other games requiring high refresh rates, 240Hz is surely better. Maybe the difference in refresh radius the key for pros to win games. This screen did a great job in color accuracy, brightness, and response, plus 240Hz refresh rate. It really deserves the name Pro. As for keyboard, with a start button on the top right, it's the same as the last gen. Arrow keys in full size. There is one row less on the right of numpad. Some keys position has changed. Backspace and enter keys are shorter. You need to adapt to it. And the touchpad is also very common. Let's fast forward to the bottom case. The air inlet grill is large, covering 50% area of the case. It weighs 2.65 kg, height 24.5 minus 28.6 mm. No change from last year. After all, it's a hefty gaming laptop. The power brick has upgraded from 230W to 330W, weighs 1.17 kg. I know they want a higher performance, but this brick is way too big. The good news is the Type-C port supports PD charge, so you won't carry this giant brick all the time. Apart from this full-featured Type-C port, the laptop contains 4 USB-A ports. The left one is a USB 2.0 and the rest are all USB 3.2 Gen 2. What's more, it has HDMI, mini DP and SD card reader, which is impressive among gaming laptops. You won't need a docking station. That's all for exterior. What's your point about it? I think the exterior is not very eye-catching, but it does not look cheap. The new design and logo is distinct. I'm okay with that. But the weight and figure are a little wild. It would be better if they could control the body size a bit. The exterior and build have been improved. So how about performance? It has a new console. The UI is much cooler. It has 4 performance modes. We will test in the performance mode. First thing I want to tell you is, with 130W 3060, how much does it differ from the full drive 140W 3060? In TimeSpy, which shows DX12 performance, it reached 8536, compared with 140W 3060. The difference is about 5%. No big deal. Then we test DX11 performance in Firestrike Extreme. It reached 10,265. The gap is about 4%, even smaller. At last, Superposition Classroom.it reached 5042, a little larger difference, about 6%. So, this 130W 3060 did not perform as well as the 140W. But the gap is about 5 acceptable. Apart from power, differences in RAM will also impact the GPU. For example, this year, it equips with SK Hynix RAM, but the Samsung RAM in the last gen performs better. This is not an isolated case. From the second half of this year, lots of 3060 laptops choose SK Hynix instead, like the Legion 5i Pro we brought recently. It is weaker than the Samsung RAM. The difference is about 5%. What about gaming performance? Let's bring out the Legion 5 Pro. And they have the same resolution, which is easy to compare. Online games first.at default resolution, 129 FPS in Dota 2, 384 FPS in CS, Go, 99 FPS in Apex, all good. Comparing with Legion 5 Pro with 140W 3060, it was pretty close. Redmi G Pro was a little higher, which means the power is not a major factor. Unfortunately, except for CS, Go, the other two didn't support 240Hz. If you lower the resolution to 1080p, CS, Go, and Apex showed a significant increase, but these two are still neck and neck, and it remained 130 FPS in Dota 2. CPU and RAM matters a lot for those equipped with 3060 and above. Lowering the resolution would not help. So, when it comes to online games, 130W and 140W 3060 are neck and neck, just a tiny gap that you won't notice. What about 3A games? Default resolution. 3060 couldn't handle the 2.5000 screen. We tested in 5games.it reached 70 Fs in Shadow of the Tomb Raider. About 40 FPS in the rest. Comparing to Legion 5 Pro, it only won in 4 games by a margin of 1 FPS. They were neck and neck in Horizon 5. If you lower the resolution to 1080p, things are getting better. It reached 115 FPS in Tomb Raider and above 60 FPS in the rest games, but for Horizon 5, it only reached 50 Fs. You need to lower the settings, and these two laptops were still neck and neck. Redmi even performs better in some games. After the game testing, let's check the CPU. i7 6800 hours, 8 cores and 16 threads. You should be familiar with it. It scored 602 in Cinebench R20 single-thread ordinary. Then, multi-thread part. In the R20 loop test, it reached 5,548 at the first round and remained at about 5 for 7.0. What's that means? Still close to this year's Legion 5 Pro. Comparing to the last gen with i7 5800 hours, it increased about 700 points. The power is a little high in first two tests, and it remains 80 watts later. With a clock speed of 4.2 GHz. The temperature reached 100 degrees Celsius in the first test, then remained 95 degrees. I'm okay with that. AMD doesn't pursue extreme performance this year. I think it performs well at 80 watts. As usual, we will test some creation software. For Adobe, PS866, AE777, PR691 on the same level as other AMD gaming laptops. With this 2.5000 screen, it is good for photo and video editing. And comes SpecView 2020. It is close to laptops with 140W 3060. Not bad. Let me conclude. This laptop is sufficient to play major online games and do some content creation work. But for those three masterpieces, 5K resolution is a strong barrier for 3060. You need to lower the settings or the resolution. But it's a common issue for all laptops with 3060 and 2000. As for the 130W 3060, I think it's okay. 10-watt difference is just a tiny gap. Maybe the difference is just 1 or 2 FPS in games. Next, disassembly. It is easy to disassemble. Remove all screws on the bottom case, don't forget the one under the rubber feet, and then take off the case. It lasted 7 hours in PC Mark 10 Modern Office with an 80 Wh battery, which is higher than the last gen. And beyond most of the Intel laptops, AMD does have an edge in battery life this year. As for daily use simulation test, it lasts 4 hours and 16 minutes, all for your consideration. The Samsung RAM dual-channel DDR5 for 80 ohms is covered with Shield. 83 ns memory latency is lower than other AMD gaming laptops we tested. The SSD is an OEM version of Phison, which is strange to me. Phison's 5018E18 controller. Micron 176-layer TLC chip. IT supports PCIe 4.04, but the measured speed can only run up to the PCIe 3.04. After out of cache, the write speed slows down a lot, about 200 MB/s. IT equals Micron 2450 we tested before. There's an empty space for extra SSD. IT supports 2280 SSD. Down below the SSD is the Wi-Fi card, Wi-Fi 6 supported. This card supports up to 80 MHz. 160 MHz is not available. So we know its limit. It's not as good as X211 in many aspects, but it is enough for daily use. This time, we added a Wi-Fi card stability test. Download for 10 minutes and sample with 16 threads, 10 times per second. Then draw the data into curves. A fluctuation is indeed far from that of X211. If you think this is intolerable, you can change it. The thermals change a lot. It has 4 heat pipes and dual fans. The number of heat pipes is reduced, but the main heat pipe is thicker. The overall layout has changed from flat to diagonal, which reduces the bending angle to improve heat transfer. Next, stress test. In stress FPU test, CPU remained 95.6 degrees, 80 watts and 4.2 GHz. In stress GPU test, the RTX 3060 remains 78.3 degrees, 130 watts and 1837 Z. In dual stress test, CPU 86.8 degrees, 45 watts and 3.45 GHz, GPU 85.3 degrees, 130 watts and 182 Ms. For exterior temperature, the hottest zone is at the central left, large area, maximum 45.3 degrees, 42.8 degrees at WASD area. IT can be hot for long-time gaming. As for noise, it reached 55.2 dB under full load, pretty high among gaming laptops. All in all, it did a great job in cooling, much better than the last gen. It can squeeze into the first tire this year. It's not going to reduce power during dual stress test. Remaining 45 and 130 watts, not 45 and 115 watts in last year. So the GPU performance is upgraded indeed. The core temperature is lower than the last gen. You don't need bottle caps anymore. I think the noise is still a major issue. You need a headset to get a better gaming experience. After all the tests, I'm sure you have some takeaways. As usual, 3 pros and 3 cons for your reference. Let's get back to the very first question. What is the Pro for? From its specs, the screen is the most pro part. Upgraded from 2165 Hz to 2240 Hz and adopted 16:10. Pretty good in color accuracy, which is rare among laptops under $1499. For performance, regular upgrade in CPU and memory. Some progress in thermals. The GPU is upgraded from the regular version's maximum 3050 Ti to 3060, but it's still 130 watts, which shows a tiny FPS increase. From the exterior, the lid is upgraded from plastic to metal, the texture of base panel and bottom case is also better, the build of the whole machine has got a jump. However, the regular edition of Redmi G this year also have them all, not exclusive to the Pro. So the brightest parts of the Pro are screen and performance. I think Redmi G Pro Ryzen 2002 has a change in product positioning this year. The last gen asked for the ultimate cost performance. This year, they spent a lot in exterior and screen in order to build it into a balanced type. Of course, the price will increase. But the prices of gaming laptops are all high this year, making this one a highly recommend. Due to changes in design, it has a different set of customers than last year. Redmi G Pro Ryzen 2002 is for those who have a deep pocket and value display quality and scalability. It has a good screen, Excel performance, and quite a few ports. But it is way too heavy. If you value portability, I suggest you visit the store first. That's all for today's video. Please hit like and subscribe to our channel. If you want to interact with me every day, please follow us on WeChat official account. I will talk about a laptop there every day. This laptop may be a good deal, but all we want is to provide info and guidance. This is BIBA Laptops. I'm Juan. See you next time.